thought-provoking, always smoking, lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Mutabaruka.
Yeah, good night. This is the Cutting Edge on RFM on next Wednesday. You're listening to Brenda Fassie out of South Africa. The late Brenda Fassie. Yeah, one you love Sister P with a nice little restaurant on the main road. I hope be there, yes. Sweet little ambience and thing. So one you love Sister P, anybody who pass through going on to Port Antonio and them place there. You have a nice little restaurant. Vegetarian style. On the main road. Hope be. Why you love Rod? Yes, Rod. Yes, Rod, man. This is the Cutting Edge on RFM. There with you. This is Wednesday, them call it holiday night. Yeah, Rihanna. Mr. Brown and Paul McCartney. Commander L. Ray Hamilton as soon as possible. Contact him at 356-2682. That's students from the St. Anne Division National Brigade are being asked to contact Commander L. Ray Hamilton as soon as possible. Contact him at 356-2682. Some ones are one broken Robert Williams. You know, Robert Williams are the IRFM, part of the IRFM team. Yeah. Well, apparently Robert Williams, they are the hospital and them broke in him car and take out invaluables, especially the documents them. So you may ask them for the know. You say if you find in the morning, they bring the money, come give me, and left the documents at IRFM front desk, they are the hospital or in the police station. Believe you me, the documents them in that don't make no sense to anybody who thief them. You understand? So we ask the ones are one who go in a Robert Williams car, take out him document, passport and all them something there. For please return it. Go to the police station or even on IRFM. So yes. Okay, so Black History Month, the power still. We want the people to know, so we're going to play a tape tonight. Yes, it's a tape we play already, but we feel it's very important that we play it right now, especially we are going in the urge now with the mix-up of peoples. We want to start it off by we read an article where it says the Mormon church finally said dark-skinned people is not. Well, I see them thing, you know, yeah, years we are talking about how the Mormons having a them book about black-skinned people and thick-nosed people can't go to heaven, you know. A long time, they must say that, you know. I don't know how much Jamaicans know this, but maybe a whole heap of ones never ever born yet for know, and it's not long time neither. It's not long time, it's just that you young. You know, say, the Rastafari community, I think, was the Coptic church, Judah Coptic church. Yeah. And the Mormon church did approach the government for legitimacy as a church. This was the Coptic church. And I think it was Blackheart and Jalai them was part of that Coptic church. And the Mormon church, them approach to get legitimized in a Jamaica as a church. Well, them say no to the rest of them. One of the reasons them gives that them smoke ganja. I kid you not. Them turn it down because them say the rest of them use ganja as a a sacrament. Ganja, same ganja where you everybody has say they're going to legalize, decriminalize now that Rasta can use it as sacrament. Well, this church was turned down because of the ganja association with ganja. But the Mormon church, which is a church that came from outside of Jamaica, inner Jamaica, was legitimized. But here we know, this is the problem. Well, it's not a problem to them, but it was a problem when we look at the rules and regulations of the Mormon church. The Mormon church say that dark-skinned people, black people, can't go to heaven. And them did have a thing named polygamy. Meaning that the members can have more than one wife, which in Africa it is not illegal, but in Jamaica it's not something that it is desirable in Jamaica for a man to have more than one wife. As a matter of fact, if a man have more than one wife in Jamaica, them call him a bigamist. Bigamist. Well, the Mormon church was legitimized, even though part of their Bible, the book of the Mormon, declared that dark-skinned people cannot go to heaven. It always strikes me and I wonder, how is it that, you know, them all travel 2 by 2, but I can't figure it out how black people, 2 black people could have walk around with the book of the Mormon and I go house to house, I try convert people, and the book where them have in them and tell them say them can't go to heaven. I could have never understand it. That is like a Jew walk around with a book by Hitler. Yes? I don't know no Jew that walk around with no book by Hitler where I say exterminate Jews. But black people, in a them sense, in a them right sense of frame of mind, I walk around with a book which say, in the book of Nafia, say that dark-skinned people cannot go to heaven. Now, we see that them come round now. Not no wrong if a man people change them philosophy, because people grow. Now them is now saying that the Mormon church finally says that dark skin is not a sign of God's curse. Because you know, so them say we curse. Yeah, them say black people curse. And more than one set of people say it too. More than one set of people say black people curse. But them finally now come round to it. We have the article there say, as of Friday, December the 6th, the Mormon church has officially renounced the doctrine that brown skin is a punishment from God. In the book of Mormon, not the musical, but the actual sacred text, dark skin is a sign of God's curse. Not the musical, but the actual sacred text. Dark skin is a sign of God's curse, while white skin is a sign of his blessing. The book tells of a conflict between 2 lost tribes of Israel. It's a long article. I mean, really, it's really a long article. So we're not going to read the whole light. But with us, I said, they have now come around to saying that if people read, the curse come off away. Them declare that. I always wonder if a book is a sacred book that was given by God. Well, you know, say, that book here is a guy give them the book, you know. Where them leader name again? I got to tell you them leader name. Because this is not something to play with now. Because I still are going to try to figure out whether or not them take it out of the book. Or black people. I know none of them ever approach me, you know. None of these people who say them is mamas. I remember that one time them when me say something on the radio about them say black people can't go to heaven, them take me on. People used to tell me to them take me on, and I say, who's this fellow on the radio? But it's not lie I was telling. Uno sisi I don't lie me that tell now though. Uno sisi I don't lie me that tell now. All the people them who did that say me and I say, no go so re. Me, you know why me did say it go so? Because me actually have the Mormon book. Me not just take things away there, you know. You see, from a man tell me he said that dead, me go get a book of the Mormon, you know. Me have a book of the Mormon in my yard. And me go in it. And me read it and me see it. And because most of it was directed to the Native Americans, and because I don't see them say, the Mormon said Jesus would go to America, you know. Yes, and give the revelation to them leader. And we went physically. One time we were on a tour, and I Utah, and I say, watch a man. Every time me turn on my radio, me about the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, you know, me want to find out which part of this place there. And we went up to the Mormon's place, the Mormon's Tabernacle. And me I tell you, don't ramp with them. I don't know if a whole heap of people know, you know, but at the registrar of birth, where you go get your birth certificate, did you know that if them can't find certain dates and time of your birth, them refer it to Utah, the Mormon Tabernacle? I kid you not. If you don't believe me, go over there, go ask them. If them have certain problems with your birth, date of birth and all them really, them refer to the Mormons because you know them have a computer in a Utah, Salt Lake City. Them have a computer down there where register these things. You'd have never know that. And a guy out there gonna say, where Muta get them things there from? Well, I did don't tell us the man them say black people can't go heaven already, and then say about the foolishness me attack. Well, see the man them now recant it now, them get grow. So I don't know if they're gonna take it out of them book now. And it's just like the Bible too. There's a whole heap of things in the Bible that need for either take out or throw away. When a man I tell you about is the word of God. The word of God, our God, cannot be recanted. You can't take back the word of God, because when God says something, it's supposed to be indelible. So if you decide that you're going to make certain adjustments, you realize there's something wrong. Somebody duped somebody when them talk about the word of God. It's like when the Pope, there's a woman by the name of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc rose up and led a battle that mesmerized Europe in part. And I think she was about 19-year-old when them burn her at the stake. Them burn her at the stake. And the Pope declared that she was devilish. She had the devil in her. The Pope of Rome declared that Joan of Arc was a witch. So them burn her. Just like how you see the ISIS people, them burn up the pilot, the Jordanian pilot. These people burned Joan of Arc. Because in those days, them used to carry her in the square and have a wonderful time of burning people, just like what we talked about last week. How them used to burn and lynch black people in America. Not less than 100 years ago that we attacked. So the Pope declares that she's a witch. Now, one would think that the Pope, who is a vicar of Christ, who represents Christ on earth, his word would be final. His word would be coming from God himself. Well, 500 years after that burning of Joan of Arc, and next Pope come and take off the curse off her and say she is a saint. Check that. 500 years after them come, Joan of Arc is a saint. Saint Joan of Arc. No, isn't that something else? So one wonders if man can haphazardly change the word of God in any way he want and fashion, just like how the Islamic people them switch round the Quran to suit them cruelty and wickedness in the name of religion. If men can turn around and twist round things so, why I as an intelligent person must declare that these books, these Book of Mormon, these King James Version of the Holy Bible, this Quran and all these things, why should I say that these books are the word of God and not the word of men? Because to me, it more resembles the word of some insecure men. Very insecure too. So, tonight we're going to present a thing that we play already. It's called The Real Eve. The Real Eve. And what it does is trace the origin of the human species out of Africa. And this is a scientific, this is not the Eve in the Bible that I talk about now. Them just use the word Eve to just signify an idea, like a generic term for the beginning of human being, especially the woman. Eve, the real Eve. What this documentary show you is it traces the original human being from Africa and how them spread out and how these Africans leave Africa and go into Asia and reach into Europe and start to populate the place. And because of climate conditions for thousands of years, an adaptation to environment, people change. So we want to examine that, and this is a scientific explanation. But this is not no biblical explanation. This is not based upon of faith. This is not a story about Adam and Eve, where Eve eats fruit of good and evil and give her husband, and then her husband eat it, and God walk in the garden and ask them, what have you done? And the man say, it's the woman, sir. It's the woman give me the food and I did eat. And then the woman blame the serpent, and God say, she shall have pain in childbearing. And people believe these faith story like say is real thing. And it's not man I write it. It's man I write these things. It's not no supernatural defined being with flash of lightning like a pen and write these things. It's man. Man in him quest to understand himself and understand things around him and in him. Write down these things. So if you understand why, he must say, you have to go study the culture that bring that man and the politics and the environment that that man live in. If you understand why him write it, how him write it. So African people, we have to recognize how important it is for know, not believe, for know say Africa life, human life start. And this is not something only of faith, this is something of science. Because even in the Bible, it mentions Africa, Ethiopia, And inner science, it tell you about Denkanesh, Lucy, 3.5 million years ago. People don't want to recognize how important these things is. But as we say, we're going to revisit this tape in Black History Month here and make you really have another understanding of how things begin and how Africa represents itself in the scheme of things, and not just slavery, as them want us to believe, that African history starts at slavery. African history is the first history. As a matter of fact, there was a time when there was no European. There was a time when there was only African on the earth and no European. Yeah.
Can I still in?
Bless you, man. Highly.
Love, man. How you do, man?
I'm there, man.
Well, long time on a link, but give thanks for the link anyway still.
Yeah.
You remember me?
Well, out of foreign the New York side.
Yeah, man. See you, man.
All right. Are you trying to keep something out of Copa there?
Yeah, we had to do something out of the beach, the honor, the ancestors, so.
Yeah. So explain to the people them are going so.
All right. Now, on the 21st, there is a tribute to the ancestors. Basically, what we are doing is recognizing a day that was established in 1937 by the Emperor of Ethiopia. And that day is to pay homage to the martyrs, those who came before and lived gallantly for the cause of freedom for Ethiopia. Now, as you may be aware, Benito Mussolini invaded Ethiopia in 1935, and on this particular day, there was a carnage that took place where a monastery was bombed and the whole 9 yards. And because of that, now, Our Majesty established a day determined Martyrs Day. So this is the 78th year since Martyrs Day has been established. And as we in Black History Month, we deem it important that the black community here in Jamaica.
So is the first year going to celebrate it Anya, or you to celebrate it now?
No, I do it already last year now. We came here last year, which was the 77th anniversary. And yeah, but this is the second time around. So it get a little bit more press this year, because at least we're upon the great cutting edge this time around, so at least one can become conscious of it still, you know?
Yeah. All right. So tell me where we're going out there.
No, and the 21st, there will be one, we were going to have a lionizing of our ancestors. For example, we have two individuals that we're going to put front and center. There is Data Baby Eye. One must be familiar. Data Baby has been a matriarch of the Rastafari culture and liberty, and she have transition, and we think it's important to celebrate her life.
And Bongo Rocky was our king man.
Our king man, exactly. However, we're not going to lionize Bongo Rocky this time. We're going to draw upon Prince Emmanuel and Charles Edward. And lionize Prince Emmanuel and Charles Edward this time around. As a matter of fact, last year, what we did was recognize Leonard Percival Owell. And also we recognized Queen Nanny as two stalwarts in the movement. So we started out with Leonard Percival Owell and Nanny last year. This year we recognizing, of course, Queen Baby Eye and Prince Emmanuel. Yes, Brother Eddie, as he's known.
So what farm that I going to take now? Tell me, how do do that now when you say lionize somebody?
No, what we do is we use one of the traditional Ethiopian, one traditional African ceremony where you go through the libation, where you pour libation, water libation, and then we release a couple of doves, one dove female, male respectively, and so forth. And we go by the water, and then we also recognize the ancestry that who then succumb to the Middle Passage.
So you send out fruits and them things upon a
thank you, fruits, and we also identify the different elements, the salt, the sweet, the pepper, bitter, etc. So we draw consciousness to those different elements. You know, traditional Ethiopian, traditional African values that oftentimes is lacking. And this being Black History Month, we deemed it, a great way to draw that awareness, because as a matter of fact, Muta, there's a term that we use, and the term is called genocide. And most of us don't realize that the first time that word was used is Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yeah, Haile Selassie word that genocide.
Yes, he introduced that word to the massive, and others have been using it. So we want your awareness to the massive today. Yes.
But not only that, you know, there's a saying that there'll be no peace until there's equal rights and justice. Haile Selassie did say that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and these are awareness that we want to draw now, especially being that it is a Black History Month celebration. So we can draw upon importance of Black history. And this carnage that took place when we call it now the Ethiopian Holocaust, where the fascist forces was bent upon annexing Ethiopia, is a part of our history that we can't forget, because that is a significant reality towards the preservation of a liberated Black consciousness. Because as Ethiopia become victim to that carnage, then perhaps Black people wouldn't be free. Nowhere.
Yeah, and you know, you have a next celebration where at Sister up at Portland always Mama Fire, the Battle of Adwa.
Yes.
That was during the Menelik time, the Battle of Adwa. They always celebrate that too, you know.
As a matter of fact, for those who are unaware, the Battle of Adwa was a precursor then towards the carnage that we talk about.
So
right, before Mussolini's time, the Battle of Adwa existed, where the Italian again in trying then to annex and gain more territory in Africa.
Because they was the only one that never have nothing in Africa.
Right, minimal. I wouldn't say don't have nothing, Muta. They didn't have as much as said Britain and
Germany
France,
and all them places.
Germany and those other places. But they did. But and they figured that the primary prize, especially the Vatican itself, then recognized that with the ark, the supposed Ark of the Covenant and all the artifacts that reside within Ethiopia, if them get that prize, then it would catapult them to the top of the class. And as such, there was a concerted effort made then to annex Ethiopia accordingly. So you find that because of the defeat at the Battle of Adwa now, Menelik now becomes, this leader of Ethiopia, of Italy, become so certain that he have to avenge the defeat that he had that at the end of Menelik. So because of that, Benito Mussolini and Graciana and Baggio and those guys decided, say, yes, them have to do it this time around. But they didn't recognize they had the Lion of Judah to deal with. And as such, you know, the rest is history. We were able to defeat them and maintain the final vestige of liberation. And that was the beginning of the domino effect, because ever since that time, one by one now, the African nation then start to liberate themselves, one after the other.
And that was the word, so you have struck the match in Ethiopia and it shall destroy Europe.
And it did destroy. Because as the World War, which followed, so the sequence, exactly. So what we are saying now, come the 21st at Cable Hut Beach, we are going to then recognize some of our ancestors in this part, while at the same time recognize our Ethiopian brethren and sisters who fought gallantly.
That is BBI and Prince Emmanuel. What time it start, brethren? What time it start?
It starts midday, you know. It starts midday and seal up sundown. Midday and the 21st.
What else included in that?
Well, besides, a great question. Besides recognizing the ancestry from their life, we also is going to point out to some of the positive contribution that these ancestry provide for us by having a station for health, so that we can test for high blood pressure, test for diabetes and these things, and then can provide some of the natural things which our ancestors recommend to us. So it will be a celebration of life in a twofold sense. One, to pay homage to those who have transitioned, and also to recognize things that can be done today to keep one in the land of the living, so to speak. So, it's a twofold thing. And true, again, we as Rasta sometimes neglect paying homage to the ancestry, because most of the time when a man we born dead and all them kind of thought, because it's reality. They say these things from time to time. And we come to recognize that no nation, a nation without knowledge of its history is like a tree without roots. So we have to really pay homage to our ancestors in order to get that necessary blessing, so to speak.
So
and
this is the 20th. All right. So we have to move on. We have to move on. This is the 21st. Yes, sir.
The 21st.
Copa.
Cable.
Sorry, Cable Hut Beach.
Cable Hut, right. But before we go, Muta, tomorrow there is also a launch that will take place at Jampro, and that is tomorrow at 5 p.m. at Jampro. So if you're in the area, you can come stop by the Jaipur building at Jampro. And get a chance for the launch of it. And we'll be amiss if we don't give thanks to Me Hungry, because one of the sponsors is, of course, Me Hungry. So we have to dig up Me Hungry for our day.
Blessed man, we have to move here.
Give thanks, man.
Yes. Celebrations. Black. I remember that next week, Thursday, Stepping Razor will be in Brownstown Community College. Yes, Ian. Yeah,
Brother Muta, good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah, it's a meditation and it's a thought, you know. So, may I say, all the metaphysics and critical thinkers, out of the box thinkers, and so forth, tune in, because we're going to go on a ride, and the ride going to be rough.
No, wait. Who are going to go on a ride?
We're going to take a mental ride.
No, well, you have to go call back, you know. You have to go call back. Because that sounds like a long thing you have to work with that, so now.
No, I'm not going to work. No long thing, man. You just make it short.
No, but to me, you say we are going to go on a ride.
No, Muta, you know how me do the thing already.
All right, work it out. Go and work it out. No,
all right.
And to me, know why you're going to say something, I have to go cut you, you know, because I wouldn't advertisement did it.
No, me make it short, man.
Yeah, all right, go on.
But we're gonna use our head and mind to finish up and fill in the blanks. We're gonna think tonight. All right. Deep within I reasoned within myself, and I asked the question, and there were also interest came forth, and there was a desire that came forth also, and the question was asked about the Chinaman, and I inquire of the Chinaman's nature. I desire to discover this man, what he was made of. And I said, the only way I could give a full report on this man, the nature of this man, is to enter the temple, into the throne room of this man, to discover the nature of this man. So, when I reason this thing out, and I find the truth of it, when I discover the truth, I did not stop with the Chinese man. I moved this thing to other race. And when I discovered the truth of it, I was somewhat frightened. So I bring this to a close brethren. I did not mention the white man to him or any other race. I mentioned just the Chinese man. So he did not engage me. But I continue to entertain this thought, this meditation. And I continue to work on this meditation in my heart, in my mind. And I feel strongly about this. I had something here. And I said I got myself in trouble by thinking this way. But anyway, I feel strongly about this. And I proceeded to think further on this matter. And I continue to think. I continue to think on this thing. And the more I think on it,
Brethren, hold on, brethren. This is what I say now. That's what I'm saying. If you call back, you know, come never want cut in anything and you take long to reach where you want to reach.
Me hold on.
No, you can't hold on. You have to go call me back. Because we have a next thing to line up here, so you have to go call me back. Because when you are saying now, you got 5 minutes already, you don't reach where you want to reach it.
All right. You work.
The Digicel Grand Prix is burning up the track. Make sure you come out on.
I'm presenting the real evil. a documentary based off of the movement of human species from the beginning when they first appear on Earth till this time, and how the connection with the different races develop from the African woman. So without further ado, we want to present the real Eve.
Recorded oyster bar, 6.5 kilometers long and 15 meters above the current sea levels. It's the oldest evidence of beachcombing anywhere in the world. Buried in it are human tools, along with fossilized oyster, clam, and scallop shells. It provides absolutely clear evidence that our ancestors were exploiting the sea.
This is the unit where we have interstratified layer of big oyster and mollusk shells at the base, and they are quite horizontal. And this was a platform where modern man used to be walking and dumping their stone tools and some of the shells they were eating. There's this hand axe with a sharp end, and some of the shells that have been shed from this interstratified layer, and they've been using this for breaking the shells and eating it. And then when they were finished with it, they would sort of dump the hand axe and also a shell and walk to the next site. But the most important thing, it's not this, because you cannot date it. It's what you find in situ, which makes it very, very important. If you see, this one is an obsidian tool that had been used to smash some of these oyster beds that you see. You don't see both completely enclosed, but have been smashed, and the goodies have been eaten. And these are some of those very important stone tools that have been discovered. This is the first place where beachcombing for marine resources have been documented worldwide and verified.
These shell remains are also a vital clue to the reasons why our ancestors made the long walk out of Africa. On a constant diet of seafood, many more children would have survived. But the increase in numbers would make the demand for food even more desperate. Camps like this one would have numbered just a few hundred. At one time, there were only about 10,000 modern humans alive in the whole world. We were as endangered a species as the great apes are today. When the beachcombing and spearfishing failed to support them, they no longer had a choice. If they were to survive, they had to move. Across the Red Sea, freak monsoon conditions were watering the green, inviting hills of the Yemen. Scientists have always thought our ancestors migrated from Africa many times, group after group, and it was believed they always went north via Egypt and modern Israel. But the DNA trail tells a different story. Professor Stephen Oppenheimer is one of the world's foremost authorities on current genetic research into DNA tracking. By putting together the genetic tree with prehistoric weather patterns, he is one of the first to come up with the extraordinary idea that our ancestors came out of Africa by a single southern route.
This beach is on the west coast of the Red Sea, the African side. Over on the other side, we can see the mountains of Yemen. I believe this is where our ancestors crossed on the first stage of their journey to the rest of the world. These straits are known locally to fishermen as the Gates of Grief because of the terrible, fierce currents crossing. But 80,000 years ago, the sea level was 150 foot further down. As a result, a number of islands and reefs appeared, which allowed our ancestors to cross, as it were, on stepping stones over to the Yemen.
Driven by hunger, shrinking habitat, and maybe the first stirrings of the restless human curiosity about the land ahead, our precious group of modern humans prepared to move.
There are two routes out of Africa. The north of the Red Sea, across the Suez and into the Middle East. And here in the south, across the Gates of Grief, into the Yemen and on through the South Arabian coast to India. Both routes are possible, but to get through to the north, our ancestors would have had to have crossed the Sahara Desert. And at the time, it was even drier than it is today. Here in the south, all they had to do was to cross this short stretch of water, only 10 miles across, to the Yemen. So this was a region they could go to with confidence. I believe the most important journey the human race ever took started here on this beach 80,000 years ago.
Small group of people. One exodus. The single most important event in the population of the world. This is no single trudge across the sandbanks. This was an epic struggle to stay alive, not just for themselves, but the rest of mankind. Those who survived the crossing, who didn't succumb to the dangers of the gates of grief, came to a virgin land. This is the new frontier and the beginning of the rest of the world.
The Yemen beaches were on the edge of an almost empty world. Our group were the first modern humans, the first of their kind outside Africa, surviving in this place at that time. This group was on their own at the edge of the new world. Life would have been a bit better for our migrants across into the Yemen. For a start, the beachcombing in the Gulf of Aden would have been a lot better than on the Red Sea.
Unlike the parched, salty beaches they had left, the Yemen was green and fertile, full of fresh water, game, and shady oases, safe haven for a family to settle.
They were probably a small group, maybe maximum about 250 persons. They would have been scattered around in family units of 5 to 20, but networking with the other groups in the population. Anything less than about 200 would not have been viable. They would not have been able to cope with epidemics of disease or famine.
We know Eve and her daughters were among the survivors because from them are descended everyone in the world outside Africa. The new science of tracking is a breakthrough. Using the single unbroken mitochondrial genetic line, scientists constructed a vast family tree that shows that once outside of Africa, our ancestors split up, some going north and west, some going east and south. Once they had left Africa and the Yemen, they went their separate ways, never to meet again.
When the group first arrived here, they would have had a selection of African lines. A group of 250 people may have had at least 5 or 6 different lines. But over 1,000 years, if this population stayed isolated, gradually those lines would have reduced and reduced. The total number of the population would have stayed the same. It's rather like a Welsh village, hill village, or a village in Italy, where after a number of generations, everybody gets to have the same surname. This process of reduction of lines is called drift, and it happens in all small, isolated communities.
The smaller and more isolated a group is, the faster the mitochondrial DNA line comes down to one. Not to one person or even to one group, but one mitochondrial DNA line. Some women have no daughters. Some daughters don't survive. So in the end, only one line is left. Totally isolated, they could breed only amongst themselves. The genetic math shows it would take about 1,000 years for the mitochondrial line to be reduced to one. One genetic lineage shared by all non-African people everywhere throughout history. It's this single line that convinces Stephen Oppenheimer he is right about our ancestry.
The implications of the single exodus from Africa are enormous. For a start, there's a simple observation that Australians, New Guineans, Southeast Asians, Chinese, Native Americans, Europeans and Indians all come from the same small group. That this small group, in the last 80,000 years, has diversified enormously into completely physically different populations in different parts of the world that have adapted physically and culturally to the new environments that they've found and they've explored.
Gulf, even our out-of-Africa families stayed put, waiting until the climate changes allowed them to move. Their descendants would be the people of the Middle East, spreading north into Europe 40,000 years later and founding the vibrant cosmopolitan cities we know today. Others would continue past the Gulf, moving east, beachcombing their way along the coast of the Indian Ocean, looking for warmer, gentle places to stop. Within 6,000 years of reaching the Yemen beaches, our ancestors would eat their way to Malaysia. 6,000 miles from Africa, our family are deep in the tropical rainforests of Southeast Asia. These are the descendants of Eve, hunting in the jungles of Malaya. Roaming in small bands, staying in one place long enough to reap the harvest of wildlife and then moving on. Their bodies are beginning to adapt to the rainforest conditions. Away from the harsh African sun, their skins become lighter, their stature reduced by lack of meat. Like hunter-gatherers in the jungle today, they live on fish, rats, squirrel, and lizards. On canopy game, fruits, and roots. They disguise and camouflage themselves to conform to the foliage and imitate animal calls to deceive their quarry. Life in the forest is shared with venomous snakes, cobras, pythons, and predatory animals. Between leaving Africa and arriving in Australia, there's no clear archaeological evidence of the presence of modern humans or their amazing migration. No skulls, no skeletons or graves. Sea levels were 160 feet lower, so whatever our family left behind on their coastal journeys have been reclaimed by the sea. The genetic trail is all we have. It's not until we reach Malaysia that new evidence begins to fill in the gaps. The Great Toba eruption in Sumatra 74,000 years ago was the single biggest explosion in the last 2 million years. The plume was 25 miles high and plunged much of the world into 6 dark years of volcanic winter. Northern Malaysia, India, and the Middle East were covered in a deadly shroud of thick volcanic ash. The Great Toba explosion, the most destructive event in the last 2 million years, provides positive clues about our family's journey. These are the Semang people, shy hunter-gatherers of the interior jungles in the Lake Peninsula. Much darker than the other Malaysian people who surround them, they are part of the Orang Asli group. Stephen Oppenheimer thinks they could be the surviving remnant of our out-of-Africa family that came through here 74,000 years ago.
If our ancestors had passed this way on their route from Africa to Australia and New Guinea, it's likely they would have left a genetic trace. And we know from previous surveys that the Orang Asli, as a group of tribes in the Malay Peninsula of Malaysia, are among the oldest people in this region. And the Semang are probably the oldest of all.
Stephen Oppenheimer has come to this remote Semang village to collect swab samples of DNA. These, he hopes, will confirm his idea.
Nama Farida. If my theory is correct, that they left Africa 80,000 years ago, they would have had to have traveled 6,000 miles to get here in 6,000 years in order to be here at the time of the Great Toba explosion. That means about a mile a year, which is entirely feasible for that sort of nomadic lifestyle of moving down the coast. But to determine whether or not they belong to that first out-of-Africa group, we need to look at their genetic lines. And in particular, their mitochondrial DNA. Those will tell us whether or not they come straight out of the 2 daughters of Eve that originated just outside Africa. If they have their own unique lines, that suggests they've been isolated since that time, 70 or 80,000 years ago, and that they have developed completely on their own. If, on the other hand, we might even find that their lines are ancestral to people further down the line, like the Australians or the New Guineans. Again, our genetic tracing will help us to see whether or not that's the case.
The genetic survey may prove the Semang are an ancient race, but it can't tell us exactly when they were here. We have to look for other evidence to validate the theory. These crude tools were found in a wooded valley called Kota Tampan near Penang. There are other sites nearby with the same sort of tools. What makes these so particularly interesting is they are embedded in a fall of Toba ash dated 74,000 years ago. Professor Zoraina Majid was looking for an ancient river terrace when she stumbled upon the Kota Tampan site. What Professor Majid had actually found was a stone tool workshop, which could be pinpointed to 74,000 years ago.
The ash covered the working floor. That ash has been dated to 74,000 years ago. This is a hammer stone that they used, and you can see that it's very comfortable to hold it in the hand, and this is the edge that was used. This is a chopper, a type that's seen in a lot of Asia and Southeast Asia. What they were after was the edge angle. The edge angle had to be right, and the edge had to be sharp. This was used for heavy duty work. It's heavy, it's got a sharp edge, probably for felling trees.
Majid is convinced that they were left by modern man.
Kota Tampan also revealed man who had a complex mind. His stone tool technology revealed a rational, systematic, and organized mind, the mind of Homo sapiens.
These Kota Tampan tools are crucial for the dating of modern man's presence in Southeast Asia. They're the first tangible evidence we have of the whole journey from Africa to Australia. Combined with Stephen Oppenheimer's genetic tests, they could be real proof of our ancient migration. Has he found the evidence he needs? For the first time, archaeology and genetics gives us the same answer at this crucial point in our journey. Now we can be sure that our ancestors came this way 74,000 years ago.
The results are very exciting. The Orang Asli, the Semang group here, have their own unique genetic lines which suggest that they may have been in that first beachcombing trip 75,000 years ago. They have their own unique lines coming out of the first two daughters of Eve outside Africa. And they trace right back there and are not shared with anyone else in Southeast Asia or in East Asia.
At that time, the sea levels were 160 feet lower. Most of the islands of Southeast Asia were joined together into the single landmass of the Sunda continent. The survivors of Toba's volcanic winter would take our genetic journey onto its next great move, the unknown continent of Australia. 100 miles of shark-infested seas separated them from the new land. This is the second great exodus in the migration of mankind across the world. But this time, there are no green hills in the Yemen to give them the comfort of a safe arrival. Why did they risk all on such a dangerous venture, not even knowing if they would make landfall at the end? Some scientists believe they were blown off course and arrived in the unknown shore accidentally. But new clues from the genetic evidence says no. It shows Australian Aborigines have a number of genetic lines, unique only to them, leading straight back to the first daughters of our new out-of-Africa Eve. So many lines carried by so many women arriving in such a short time suggests deliberate intention, not accidental raft wreck. The first group arrived 70,000 years ago. More followed over the next 5,000 years, all descendants of our out-of-Africa Eve. These were the first people to walk on this vast and empty continent. They would stay undisturbed for thousands of years. The Australia they entered was home to giant creatures, megafauna, 3-meter-high kangaroos and tortoises as big as cars. The cave of this vanished world has been dated to 61,000 years ago. But suddenly, 10,000 years later, this fantastical creature and all the other megafauna were extinct. The climate didn't alter. There are no huge kill sites indicating overhunting, but humans change the world wherever they are. This sudden extinction is evidence of their presence. It seems likely our ancestors destroyed the leafy habitat with fire, and the larger plant-eating animals simply died away. This dry lake bed is one of the places where the theory might fall apart, in spite of the matching of archaeology and genes back up on the trail in Malaysia. Mongo Man 3, when he was found, the earth around him was dated 62,000 years old. When the bones were tested for DNA, sensationally, the DNA did not match anyone anywhere in the world. To those who don't believe in the Outer Africa theory, this seems to be proof that modern humans had evolved at different times and at different places in the world into the people we are today. But other scientists like Professor Chris Stringer are doubtful.
Now, there are many problems in extracting DNA, particularly from a skeleton 60,000 years old. So, firstly, it may be that the DNA that's been picked up is contamination. We're not sure of that. But even if it's genuine DNA, other analyses have shown that, in fact, it can quite reasonably be derived from an out-of-Africa ancestor, just as the rest of us can. So, in my view, the Mungo evidence, both from the bones and from the DNA, if it's genuine, still supports a recent African origin for our species.
Australian Aborigines are an ancient people, but they no longer look like their ancestors who arrived all those thousands of years ago. Their bodies have adapted, retaining all those characteristics needed to survive as hunter-gatherers in the harsh desert environment. Under the skin, we are all very much alike. Our DNA shows that we come from one very small gene pool.
If we look at the DNA of all of us, Australians, Africans, Europeans, we find that comparing the mitochondrial DNA of all of us, we show less variation. Even though there are billions of us and we're spread over the whole world, we show less variation in our mitochondrial DNA than we would find in, say, a small group of chimpanzees or orangutans or gorillas. Those apes show more variation, even in their small groups, than the entire human race shows.
But if all the people from around the world descend from such a small gene pool, why do we all look so completely different? Natural selection and adaptation to the environment are the most important factors. Sexual selection is crucial. Climate dictates body shape. The colder the environment, the shorter and more stocky you become to retain heat. Height relates to diet. The most obvious and striking difference is color. And that's also a part of our genetic inheritance. Nina Jablonski, a leading scientist looking at the evolution of skin color, was working on the importance of folic acid in fetal development when she stumbled by chance on the answer.
I started doing research on the evolution of skin color after preparing a lecture for a class over 10 years ago. It was interesting, preparing for the class, I realized that there was very little that was known about the evolution of skin color, and what was known wasn't very cogent. I discovered an interesting paper when I was preparing that lecture that showed that there was an interesting and important relationship between ultraviolet radiation and a very important biomolecule called folate.
Folic acid is crucial for embryonic development, and too much ultraviolet radiation from the sun destroys it. So our ancestors in tropical Africa needed to be dark to protect their survival. But too little ultraviolet prevents the formation of vitamin D, causing rickets, which can kill. So as they migrated to the sunless north, they had to grow paler to survive. She has uncovered a very simple evolutionary equation.
When we look at the pattern of skin pigmentation among indigenous peoples today, we see very dark people in equatorial regions with high UV and significantly lighter people as we get toward the poles. And it turns out that melanin, the natural sunscreen, is phenomenally good at screening out ultraviolet radiation. To some extent, it's too good. And in order for us to be able to make enough vitamin D in our skin, we have to reduce the amount of melanin that exists in the skin. And so what we see in the course of our species history, as we've moved from an area of high UV to areas of lower UV, our skin has become more and more depigmented.
She calculates that it takes about 20,000 years to turn from black to white. All that distinguishes color in people are tiny genetic differences laid down long ago. During the epic beachcombing migration from Africa to Australia, our family left behind colonies. One group made their way up through Asia into China and beyond. Another went from North India past the Himalayas onto the vast Asian steppes, and another stayed in the Arabian Gulf.
Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge on IRFM. The time is 12 o'clock.
Brothers and sisters, this is Chad. Join us with respect for our national anthem. Let us stand and defend this wise. Peace and love. Thank you. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Do our life through countless times. To our leaders, great defenders, great true wisdom from above. Justice, truth, be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we
Everybody feel irate when they listen to irate. Everybody love irate.
Mission Supply, see press for detail.
Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge. You know, I get a very interesting email a while ago from down in the Middle East there. I share to the people then, but we could done this thing at first because this thing I get so important and so interesting. I mean, I've heard it so much time before, but when it get down to the nitty-gritty, it gets so interesting. But I'm going to share the email after we done play this thing here.
Large freshwater lakes allowed our out-of-Africa families to colonize these pockets of lush vegetation surrounded by desert. Continuous occupation occurred here for more than 30,000 years, their bones and artifacts becoming submerged as sea levels rose. About 50,000 years ago, genetic lines began for the first time to spread north into Europe. but the timing has always been a puzzle. If modern humans are able to reach Australia as early as 70,000 years ago, why did they not arrive in Europe until 50,000 years ago? It is a much shorter journey. Stephen Oppenheimer thinks he has the answer.
I think the answer to this question is that they were stuck. They were not able to get up to the Near East, to Israel and the Lebanon, because there was a great desert in the way. That desert was the Saudi Arabian desert and the Libyan desert. And between 80,000 and 50,000 years ago, this was completely impenetrable. The climate was so dry that the Fertile Crescent, the route from the Gulf into Lebanon and Israel and Europe, was closed. Then, 50,000 years ago, there was a sudden improvement of the climate.
After centuries of domination by the desert, the rains came. Monsoon rainfall increased in Arabia and India, and the Fertile Crescent opened up. Rivers swelled and game spread north. Our families and genetic lines followed them. North from the Persian Gulf, deep into the Fertile Crescent, following the rivers between the Zagros Mountains and the Syrian desert. The idea that Europeans came in through North Africa is very firmly fixed. But Stephen Oppenheimer's evidence does not support this.
Genetic evidence completely does not support it. There's no evidence of the early branches. And in fact, only one of the main branches that people the world is found in the European region. Now, of course, that does upset a lot of fixed views about the origins of the Europeans and forces us to consider the fact that Europeans were part of the same single family that came out of Africa through the southern route. This new genetic evidence will rewrite European prehistory.
These families founded the first successful modern human colonies in the Middle East, Syria and Levant, a land that lay between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, two great rivers flowing from the highlands of Turkey in the north down to the Gulf. We have taken the first steps to the great civilizations that would develop writing, warfare, and found the great empires, all from one direct genetic route back to our out of Africa migration. During this time, there was also an explosion of new technology. The stone tools and spears modern humans manufactured became even lighter and more effective. The Zagros Mountains were full of game and good hunting and stability. Likewise, they began to establish the fixed geography of burial grounds and sacred places. In Kazarukil in the Lebanon, the burial of a 12-year-old modern child has been found, dated 44,000 years ago. His skull is broken, his body tucked gently in the shelter in the overhanging rock. family spread quickly to the Mediterranean, south along the coast of Syria and to North Africa, up through Turkey, across the Balkans, and into Europe. This is our new family, direct descendants of our marshland Arabs in the Gulf, entering the unknown territories of Germany. But the land they are entering is not empty. Others were there before them. Neanderthals had been the masters of Europe for over 250,000 years. In 1856, in the Neander Valley in Germany, quarrymen were digging out mud from a newly blasted site when they discovered some ribs, part of a pelvis, some arm and shoulder bones of a large human-like animal. They thought it was a bear skeleton. Scientists later believed it was some ancient northern savage who terrified the Roman armies. Professor Chris Stringer is an expert on Neanderthals and their world.
These people became known as the Neanderthals. They became the center of a debate about human evolution, about whether these people were possibly our ancestors or whether they represented a strange side branch of human evolution. I've got here a more complete skull than the one that was found in the Neander Valley in Germany. This was found at the beginning of the last century in France, and it shows us very well what the Neanderthals looked like in the head and face. There's a strong brow ridge over the eye sockets. The whole face is pulled forward, and there's an enormous nose. There's no chin on the lower jaw. And we now think that the Neanderthals were perhaps cold adapted. They evolved for hundreds of thousands of years in Europe under conditions colder than the present day. And this shaped their physique. They were short and stocky, very powerfully built. And this nose may have been even part of a mechanism for breathing in cold and dry air. Neanderthals are often thought to be dim-witted brutes, but they certainly weren't. They were fully human. Their brains were as large as ours. I think the Neanderthals are a different species from us, but they're a closely related species, a sibling species, one that had common ancestors with us maybe only 500,000 years ago. So on that basis, the Neanderthals are fully human. They're 10 times closer to us than chimpanzees are.
If they're interbred with modern humans, their genes have died out. There's no trace of their presence in our world. Within 10,000 years, the Neanderthals were extinct. Modern humans would wipe out all trace of their rivals and fill the space left behind. The reason for their disappearance is not clear. They lived alongside modern man for thousands of years, but in the end, Neanderthals probably couldn't adapt fast enough to the new world and their new resourceful rivals. Neanderthals used their bodies to mediate with nature. Modern humans use their brains. Into the void moved waves of modern humans from the Middle East and Russia, spreading throughout Europe. Scientists think that with these waves came 4 mitochondrial DNA lineages, 4 granddaughters of our out-of-Africa Eve. They arrived between 45,000 and 10,000 years ago, and most of modern Europeans can trace their lineage back to them. Neanderthal technology had hardly changed for over 200,000 years. As soon as modern humans arrived, a whole range of different tools suddenly appeared, as well as ornamentations. Archaeologists regard these ornaments as a defining mark of modern humans and the first interest in ornament in the 5 million years of evolution.
Here, One of the most famous of these statuettes from the Czech Republic, made in baked clay and about 27,000 years old, from a site called Dolní Věstonice. A beautiful little piece of work. Some of them are certainly covered with ochre, some of them are certainly polished from handling, perhaps over many generations. So these were treasured, valued objects, and obviously had ritual and symbolic significance for these people, perhaps religious significance. And here, one of the most delicate pieces of art. This is carved from mammoth ivory, which is a really difficult material to work. And this is from the French site of Bresson-Puy. It's a beautiful representation of the head of what seems to be a woman, with, again, either an elaborate hairstyle or perhaps a woven hat. And this is a really delicate, beautiful piece of work. It's difficult to tell from these representations whether they are representations of real people or whether they're in some way idealized to represent some sort of ideal of beauty. In some cases, I think the detail is enough to suggest that these are based on real people. Another thing that we find with these modern people in Europe is the arrival of evidence of sewn clothing. And here's one of the most direct bits of evidence, the fact that we have a bone needle here. So these people were sewing cloth, sewing skins, with evidence that they were even weaving fabrics. And so this is another level of complexity. It would have given them a much greater range of adaptations to climate, for example, and of course much greater opportunities for personal expression, for things like fashion to develop through time. And we see this also in some of the burials, that people are being buried with garments which in some cases are covered with thousands of beads made from mammoth ivory, and each of those beads represented hours and hours of work. So we have evidence here of a real richness and complexity of life that we don't find with the Neanderthals. I've got here an engraving of a mammoth on a piece of mammoth tusk from a French site that's about 15,000 years old. But these people, these early modern people, the Cro-Magnons, didn't just carve on pieces of bone and tusk. They also sculpted, they engraved, they made models in clay. And of course they painted on the walls of their caves. And this art goes back at least to 35,000 years ago. They depicted a great variety of things, often the animals they were hunting. In some cases dangerous animals such as lions or woolly rhinoceros. In some cases we can't even recognise what creatures are represented. The creatures seem to be magical symbols, imaginary creatures. And it's possible that some of this art was being used in ceremonies, in initiation rites. Possibly even some of it was created in a trance-like state, linked in with shamanism, with magic.
Modern humans have come as far as we could come on the continent of Europe. Behind us, we have left clear genetic footprints leading back to the One Out of Africa movement 80,000 years ago. 10,000 miles away on the other side of the globe, and 6,000 years later, the invasion of the New World would begin. The world was cooling down again as the new ice age began. Modern humans have found one place to settle. Our genetic lines now spread in all directions from the one southern out of Africa route. And the last remaining frontier of America now has us trekking north from India and Southeast Asia and China, and east from the Mongol steppes in Siberia, converging at the Bering Straits, the fragile strip of land joining Asia with America. For a long time, archaeologists insist no one had reached America before 15,000 years ago. But new information from the DNA genetic trail has our American ancestors crossing the Beringia land bridge from Asia 25 to 20,000 years ago. This is the last great journey to populate the world, and the genetic lines all lead to one goal. These are the first Americans. 25,000 years ago, the world was moving into one of the worst ice ages we'd ever have to endure. In places, the ice was 3 miles thick. But as the ice closes in, this is the last possible moment before it shuts off the land route from the Bering Straits into Alaska and the rest of North America. And It would be another 8,000 years before it would open up again.
The reason why we know that these first Native Americans got in about 20,000 years ago is the fact that we know which founding types they brought with them, which mitochondrial founding types they brought with them from Asia. We have types in Asia which are similar to American types, and therefore we know the ones that actually came into America as opposed to those which derived since the arrival in America. Now, on average, the founders in America have accumulated one mutation. And since we know the mutation rate for our genetic system, the mitochondria, is one mutation every 20,000 years, we know that these founder types have been evolving in America for 20,000 years, and that is when they must have arrived.
In North America, the Great Laurentian Ice Sheet smothered the Central Plains, destroying everything in its path, forcing our migrants down the west coast into South America. As the ice retreated, we could spread back into the liberated land. There's evidence of a settlement at a rock shelter on the Ohio River in Pennsylvania called Meadowcroft.
Meadowcroft is very important here to the American story because it is dated at about 16,000 uncalibrated radiocarbon years before today, and is therefore one of the earliest Native American sites to be credited by archaeologists. And this ties in wonderfully with our genetic estimates, because they must have come in several thousand years before that in order to get down to Meadowcroft.
Dr. James Adelagio led the team of scientists who excavated the shelter.
When we originally encountered it, we assumed it would not contain any cultural material whatsoever. But as it turned out, there were an assortment of artifacts and other indications of a human presence several thousands of years previous to what the estimate for the maximum age for the peopling of the New World was. Scattered across this surface and deeper occupation surfaces in and around these fireplaces are a series of artifacts, among the more notable of which are blade core fragments like this, and the blades that have been struck from these cores. What's unique about these items is that not only are they not manufactured for the most part by later Paleo-Indian groups in the Americas, but they bear a striking resemblance to blade cores from northern China that are 28 or 29,000 years old. In fact, casts of these materials could be lost in collections from North China. You wouldn't be able to tell them apart. What the evidence from Meadowcroft suggests to us is, along with data from an emerging series of sites elsewhere in North America, is that there was no single migration of human beings to the New World, as was recently postulated in the last 2 decades, but instead a series of pulses or emanations.
So multiple entries are now established as the pattern for American migration. These earliest settlers carried many different genetic lines. They came from Siberia, China, Central Asia, as far south as Malaysia and Japan. In 1996, a skeleton known as Kennewick Man was discovered along the Columbia River in Washington State. When it was brought to Jim Chatters, the forensic anthropologist, he first believed the remains were those of a 19th century pioneer. He was astonished when radiocarbon dating revealed it to be 9,500 years old. It was the oldest skeleton ever found in North America. But what really intrigued Chatters was that despite his age, Kennewick Man did not resemble modern Native Americans. His skull was Caucasoid, not Mongoloid, and reconstruction of his face showed distinct similarities with the Ainu, who lived in northern Japan.
Kennewick Man was an extremely beaten up individual. He had multiple broken ribs. He had an injured left arm. He had some injury to his skull. He had some arthritis in his neck, his knees, his elbows. Just generally been around the block a few times. But what was most distinctive about him, the most interesting injury, I guess, from a forensic standpoint, is that he had a spear point embedded in his pelvis. In fact, that's what caused us to radiocarbon date the bones. All that can be seen is a little ovoid window in each side of the bone. But when we CAT scan it, we can see that there's a 2-inch long, 1-inch wide, 1/4-inch thick serrated edge blade in there. Now, what's interesting about this spear point is that it's of a style that we only see after this man's death in eastern Washington. We can see that style moving down the coast of British Columbia into Washington around 10,000 years ago and on to 9,000 years ago. That's radiocarbon years. The people who bring this spear point, who are the ones that we find with this style of spear point a short distance later in time, are very similar to modern American Indians. You could lose them in a crowd easily of American Indian skulls. So what it looks like is we have a new population arriving with Northeast Siberian characteristics that is beginning to replace the earlier arriving immigrants. Now what this suggests in a broader way is that there was some sort of conflict going on. And the fact that it occurs at the time of the new arriving populations, the fact that Kennewick Man looks different from the new arriving populations, both suggest that it's a competition over territory that's at issue. Now, from the angle of entry, both suggest that it's a competition over territory that's at issue. Now, from the angle of entry, from the velocity of entry, it's fairly clear that this spear was coming directly at him, and that he could see it coming.
Professor Chavez believed that Kennewick Man died by hypothermia and drowning. Since the death of Kennewick Man, modern human populations have swelled from thousands to millions. We have advanced from primitive hunter-gatherers to farmers and traders, townspeople and city folk, and from tribal domains to empires. In 5,000 generations, we have arrived in the modern world we know today. Since the 1980s, DNA samples have been taken from thousands of people all over the world, from Alaska to New Zealand, from the Inuit to Icelanders. By analyzing them, scientists can trace similarities between personal pin codes and see which people are most closely related. All individuals can check their mitochondrial DNA and trace the routes their ancestors took in their journey around the world, from Africa to every corner of the globe. In Chicago, we sampled 5 people who are tracing their mitochondrial tree. After analyzing their DNA swabs, scientists discovered a remarkable connection between a Greek and a Native American.
Angela, your group came out in the same...
Angela Tracus is a Greek who came to the United States from Europe. Leonard Malatari is a Native American, full-blooded Cree. They are both from the same small and rare branch of our family tree and share a common ancestor 30,000 years ago, maybe in southern Siberia. As modern humans populated the empty world after leaving Africa, some went north to central Russia. There a daughter was born, carrying a new marker, X. Her children separated, some going west into Europe, and some east from Siberia and on into America. Tracus and Malatari arrived in America from opposite ends of the earth and now meet for the first time in Chicago. Their first family reunion in 30,000 years of our evolutionary history.
It kind of blows, it just blows me away.
Well, I think it's really exciting that we all come from the same line, because maybe then people will forget about putting so much emphasis on differences and talking about the common person, and then maybe that'll help people be a little bit more tolerant and loving, and maybe that'll progress in maybe more of a relevant manner than just science, maybe just about humanity in general. So I think that's very relevant today.
Years ago, a modern humans braved the terrors of the Red Sea and left Africa forever. They carried within the future of the world. 10,000 years ago, they had penetrated every corner of the globe. The most incredible and important journey we have ever made. For the first time, we now know who we are. We know where we come from. We know we are the same people as our restless and inquisitive ancestors, but we have reached the end of our migration. There are no more empty lands to move to. Science tells us an unbroken chain links us to our past and to each other, all sharing the same genetic inheritance from our ancestral Eve. Perhaps that is the most important message we should carry into the future.
REFM, thought-provoking, always smoking. Lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Mutabaruka.
Well, you can't say you never go to university tonight. You can't say you never get a lesson in genealogy, archaeology, history. I mean, it's something else. And you get it free. All you have to do is just sit up with me and you hear these things where you don't get in a university. Can you imagine that? The real Eve, man. That is a lesson in African history at its highest. At the highest. You can't go no higher than that. And that is scientifically speaking. This is the cutting edge on RFM.
It's okay to be yourself and do what you want. You're a woman.
From some bridge named Junior. Yeah, Junior say, good morning, my time, which is night time, your time. I am now in the Middle East, around the Gulf countries, from Qatar to Bahrain, from UAE to Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait to Jordan, and from Iraq to Syria and Afghanistan. So it's all like this brethren is a soldier. Even in war zones, a lot of people listen to Irie, including your two shows on Wednesday nights, Thursday morning, our time here, and Thursday, early Friday morning, our time here. All the Taliban them, and this part sweet, you know, all the Taliban them listen. Please send out big ups to Red Hills, Redland crew in Clarendon. This is coming from Junior out of the Middle East. All right. So this brethren, you know, say, well, the brethren say my listen because obviously you just send this email, yeah. And I love a phone number. If you could have sent another email and send me your phone number, because I really like ask you where you're doing at them area there and how you come in contact with Taliban for know say them love stepping razor and cutting edge. And if you could have connect me with one of the Taliban, then make me talk to them, you know. But obviously, I forgot to text him back and ask him for your number though. But apparently the youth are move up and down. It looked like him is a soldier. It looked like him is a soldier. So, because only a soldier could have moved up and down in them area there, so. And I'll know Taliban. Say Taliban, them love listen. Okay. And him heal up the people in my Red Hills land crew in Clarendon, coming from Junior, out of the Middle East. So the one them in the Red Hills and Clarendon supposed to know is which Junior attack. But Junior, in the Middle East there, I beg you send me a phone number, so trust me. I want to talk to you. Believe you me. I really want to talk to you. And if you could have linked me up with one of the Taliban them too. Yes. You say they love the program. All right.
It's okay to be yourself and do what you want. You're a woman. Take charge of your life. Say you.
When you talk about never know who are listening to the program. From last year when the sister England tell me say 158 countries people are listening to Stepping Rays and Cutting Edge with 150 at different countries. And she said that number could have been just a small portion. But according to the statistics, people are listening in 158 different countries. Wow.
Your African pride.
Yeah, sweet music, yes. Cutting Edge.
Greetings, Elder.
Blessed man.
I would like to know the meaning of the name Kabu.
Kabu means sacred rock.
In which culture?
Ethiopian, America. Kabu, sacred rock.
Well, give thanks. I hear you said the other week, say enough people here get them name from African name from Cutting Edge.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta change my name.
Okay, that is good.
So give thanks, Elder.
Yeah, man, Ira man.
Man!
Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge on RFM. I don't know how much have you heard the news, but it was from last year. Last year news is that Israel, maybe should I just play it by the radio now, but anyway, make we pause it here, so, because this is a very serious news that happened last year. I never get it. It say Israel expel 8,000 African immigrants because they threaten Jewish identity. You hear that? These are some Africans, you know. I don't know how much of you remember, but Israel actually plane load 10,000 Ethiopians into Israel. Falashas, them call them Beta Israelites, out of Ethiopia. Them airlift 10,000 of them several years ago in Israel. This is validating Israel's connection with what we would say is the so-called original Jewish people of Ethiopia. Well, we know what happened to those people because we went to Israel and we see them, some of them they on the street corner and sell flowers. Some of them do have no house, them sit down on the street corner just like any other people downtown. Well, now we see that Israel expelled 8,000 Africans because them threaten Jewish identity. The Jewish identity that them speak of is a serious identity that, you know, I want to play the clip, you know. I want to play the clip on the radio. Believe you me, I want to play the clip. I'm going to try and say, I can work this clip here. We can work this clip here. You have a thing we can connect in this. We could play the clip because this is not no easy clip. Where the other one there? Them have another one down there, you know. Yeah, man, push it to this hole, we say, okay, because this is something else. Oh, all right. We can see if we can work some magic here, so. Remember if you don't know, just press and I'm supposed to hear it. All right. Nah, I hear nothing. All right, I can start over. I can go and play a tune or so. And see what we can do. All right, that is from Shaka the Zulu soundtrack out of South Africa. I could say if this can work out, I don't know.
The biblical history of the Jewish people, which supposedly indeed fled persecution, crossed through the desert and made their way into the promised land, much like these African migrants fleeing violence perpetrated by governments or militias, crossing through the Sinai and indeed landing in Israel, is a comparison that Israeli authorities are loath to. They say there's absolutely no comparison, that it does not hold any weight, that these people whom they refer to as illegal infiltrators, as a matter of fact, are only here to better their lives. They're economic migrants, so basically seeking to find jobs out here, and that's it. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has justified his government's response or crackdown on this community by saying that they threaten, and I'm quoting him, the Jewish and democratic character of Israel. His former interior minister had even gone so far as to say that Israeli authorities should make their lives miserable in order to discourage them from wanting to stay here, and certainly encourage them to leave voluntarily, and also discourage their peers from being tempted to join them in Israel.
All right. So, you know, that is a different cry from Netanyahu. I tell the Jewish people them in Denmark, because this is a very serious thing, you know. I'm good to contact it all tomorrow, you know. It's just we just get a little clip, you know. But the Jewish community in Denmark, where we just have that bomb attack, that attack on some Jewish synagogue and thing, and also in France, Netanyahu, see it? The Prime Minister is saying that they should leave those European countries and come home to Israel. That is what Netanyahu is saying now. They should leave those European countries and come home to Israel. No. We're talking about some Africans who's coming from Sudan and Eritrea. And we know that they took 10,000 Ethiopians out of Ethiopia and carried to Israel. And we know that if these are Russian and you land in a Israel airport and declare Judaism as your official religion, you are accepted. And now we hear the man say, these Africans is threatening the Jewish identity. In other words, Jews are going to look to black, original, like them original ancestors. They're going to look too much like them original ancestors for these white people who invade Israel and set up a Zionist state by Britain, who give them the land. This is I don't know, easy thing, you know. This is not no easy thing. War between men and men will never end if this is what is going to happen continuously. It never end. Because here is one, you're telling some people in a Germany, in a Denmark to come home to Israel. Here is you telling people, say, if you accept Judaism, you will be accepted as Israel. Here's you taking out 10,000 Ethiopians out of Ethiopia to put in Israel. And here are you now saying these Africans is threatening the identity of Jews. Wow. And the man said they never even explain what they mean by threatening the identity of the Jews. A serious thing. Yes, cutting edge. Yes, cutting edge.
Aye.
Blessed.
Aye, Mota. Me are 2 words to say Mota. Me are 2 words to say saying. The man we are walk with stealing a shield and stealing a weight. The man if you just go and eat off the little pig them and stuff.
Where's the man them a walk? Where's the man them a walk with?
The man them a walk with stealing a shield and stealing a waist. them the command if you just go and eat off the pig them and stop trying to eat off Rasta. Saying?
Alright, sir.
Because right now, how we start the thing, you know.
Start what?
And as some big man, Mr. them a come in and come get license to ganja. Saying?
Okay.
So what I'm to wait.
Well,
and how we started.
No, but what I'm to you, that may I ask you, what I'm to we? What I'm to we?
Well, right now, I don't want to know what am I dealing with me.
No, I know what am I dealing with you. When you are dealing with yourself.
Well, me I deal with myself.
Mm-hmm.
With my thing in the motor.
Okay.
Yes, man. I deal with my thing still, you know.
Yeah.
But I man have to think about I and I brother what they still, you know, say it.
Oh, so you're not included in how them are going to deal with we then?
Well, right now, me never get the full understand what the man them are deal with, you know, because them are say it legal and yet still.
Them never say nothing about it legal. You never hear nothing like that, man. You never hear nothing like that. You never hear nothing like that. So hear me why you don't know. Me why you go get your facts straight and then call me back, yeah? Alright, yes. Man, turn around and twist around things as them want. I really, I mean, I read this thing and it's a serious thing. Israel expelled 8,000 African immigrants because they threaten Jewish identity. Israel reported caused thousands of Eritreans and Sudanese to leave the country and go back to them country. Them supposed to be Israel. So who is an Israelite? No, well, Israeli, because just last week, today what? Wednesday, I went them bomb Denmark. I went there's something happening in Denmark. This week or last week. And the one were happening in France 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The man I called them for come home, that the Jewish man on the TV. I say, him not say why, because him say, we must not leave Europe because of fear. We must leave Europe because we want to go. The man say him family, some of him family them are living in Israel. But him don't see why him should leave Europe because of fear. And Netanyahu say, you must leave Europe and come home. Must leave Europe and come home. And now we hear them a move out Africans out of Israel because the African them are threaten Jewish. No, that the word it kind of is a weird thing for say, no. I mean, you're the man, the reporter say, him still don't even understand what the man mean when him say threaten Jewish identity, you know. Him is also taken aback by the statement. Yeah, him is very taken aback by the statement when him said threaten Jewish identity. Make us see if I can find back this thing here. Because the people them need to know where going in the earth, you know. The people them know where really are going in the earth. Which part the article there? See the article, yeah? Alright. I really want to get another spin. Let's see if I can bring it up back. Okay. I need to bring up back this thing, you know. You bring up this thing back. Because I'm novice to this thing, you know. Alright, go ahead. Alright. This, I know eat this. Another one never did I use. Eh? No, but I don't eat that.
The biblical history of the Jewish people,
okay,
which supposedly indeed fled persecution, crossed through the desert and made their way into the promised land, much like these African migrants fleeing violence perpetrated by governments or militias, crossing through the Sinai and indeed landing in Israel is a comparison that Israeli authorities are loath to. They say there's absolutely no comparison, that it does not hold any weight, that these people whom they refer to as illegal infiltrators, as a matter of fact, are only here to better their lives. They're economic migrants, so basically seeking to find jobs out here, and that's it. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has justified his government's response or crackdown on this community by saying that they threaten, and I'm quoting him, the Jewish and democratic character of Israel. His former interior minister had even gone so far as to say that Israeli authorities should make their lives miserable in order to discourage them from wanting to stay here, and certainly encourage them to leave voluntarily, and also discourage their peers from being tempted to join them in Israel.
The end!
Out of Mali. This is Black History Month, and you know, say, we not step down, we step up. And musically, we love to play the music from the continental Africans, them, that you can get some familiarization with our brothers and sisters in Africa. Not just our brothers and sisters in America and the Billboard chart, but there's millions of Africans doing music in Africa and even outside of Africa too. Most of them live in France, but we are not exposed to our brothers and sisters in Africa musically. They are exposed to us. But through we hear the language barrier, we feel that the language barrier must keep us from not listening to the music. Yet still they listen to our music. So it has to be a reciprocation of musical diversities. So Cutting Edge is here to fulfill that and stop that leak. Cutting Edge.
Blessed love Muta. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, man, give thanks.
Yeah, Reggae Month.
Yeah, Black History Month.
Reggae Month, Black History Month. We give thanks, you know? I heard a lot of advertisements about the drumming.
Yeah, the drum circle down in Westmoreland.
It's a good thing, you know? And you know, it's a 1-2 beat. And you know, the 1-2 beat, right? Now you bring the original, them sound from Africa.
Well, the 1-2 beat is where the Rastafari develop, you know, but you have other beats in Africa where play, you know, it's not just...
But talking about Jamaica music, where Christopher Columbus and the West Indian, the Indian, them say them discover it. No,
when I say, you talk about the 1-2 beats as the Naya the beat, but when I say, there are other beats in Africa.
I'll come to that, I'll come to it.
Okay.
No, you see, the reggae music go further than that, because reggae music it have soul. A lot of people think that reggae music is not a soul music. That's why I know Bob Marley revolutionized this music here so much that if you listen to Bob Marley music, them and most of the artists them in a Jamaica, Dennis Brown, Eptones, the instrumental part where the man they play in a reggae music, if you listen, so I say, and then the world will follow them. Right, Muta? Yeah, man, it's very interesting and it's very nice to know that instrumental, especially Dennis Brown. When I say especially Dennis Brown, in from my youth, the man they play the music. You know what I mean? I mean, when you take out, even the wheel has drumming, when the man they sit down and drum and play drum. See it? So Mutabaruka, it's wonderful and it's great to know this music, but isn't and play drum. See it? So Mutabaruka, it's wonderful and it's great to know this music, but His Imperial Majesty say him touch the black key and him touch the, I don't know if you ever read about that Muta. And him touch the white one. And him get a nice harmony out of the touching the black one. So him touch the black one first. And then touch the white one. Yes, I don't make Christopher Columbus come tell us that them discover not around here. Yes, because Bob Marley set it and we have to follow the man, revolution and repatriation. We know that them things they have to inner the redemption of Africa because we have to redeem the thing, you know. Mr. Mutabaruka. Yeah, Africa have to redeem, you know. Yeah, man, the redemption time, you know, and the repatriation. Then taking it for a joke. But they don't know so that it is the time has come now for people need to go home and get them started themselves. Because I go home, I just go by myself and go sit down, so. No, have a family, it's a family thing. You see me,
Yeah, man, yeah, man.
Blessed, my lord.
Blessed.
Thank you.
Blessed. As the sister talked about the kingdom a while ago, did you know that the gospel songs them that was developed and written by the slaves in America was only played on the black keys on the piano? This is a fact that the gospel songs, the songs of freedom and liberation that the slaves developed during the time of slavery in America, all of those gospel songs was only played on the black keys of the piano. Check it out for yourself. A brethren just called me, asked me what Cabo mean a while ago. I would tell him, say it mean the sacred rock. And I know that this is where Cabo got her name from. So we're going to play the song with the same name out of Ethiopia, Cabo. I go up in a Lalibela mountain, find some donkey. I mean, tell you, it's where they put the donkey, and the donkey itch up on the side of the mountain top. You see when you look down and see where the donkey are walk, and your foot ever slip, you know. And know so you're gone, you know. By the time you drop next year before you drop after that you reach a bottom. And we are go up the hill and we have another part where we tie up the donkey them and I walk the rest of the hillside. And me I tell you, man, up here, the way the ear up there, the way it eye, and we are walk, you know, we walk up there, and I try breathe. Me I remember it, you know, I started get charter bread. But it was worth reaching up there though. It was worth reaching up there because it shows your history. A Lalibela where you'd have to experience it. And me always say, you know, when you actually experience something, nobody can tell you nothing different because you go there and see it. So why you love Cabo? Little Cabo to take the journey up on top of the mountaintop with the donkey. You know, so when we are going up, you know, with some woman, you know, I run, come down the hill with some eucalyptus upon the head, you know. Me I tell you, some tree, I mean, it's like them. Yes. Continue.
Yes, Muta.
Blessed man.
Mandingo, yeah, man, we get cut off last week, you know.
Yeah, I will cut it off.
I don't know.
No, I know me cut it off from here, so do.
Yeah, because me here, I want to tell me, say, you're saying, what and thing. I try to phone again, but couldn't get through. But give thanks to get through today, Thursday, the 19th of February. And it's already Sunday, birthday today, you know.
Yeah, I know, because I keep something down on West Street there. Where we did advertise him down on West Street there. So I don't know. It could have keep tonight, but I can't go, so.
Seen.
But we see him every Sunday, you know. Every Sunday him hang out with me, you know.
Okay, hear them up, you know. In the early 70s, them and Dennis Brown as the two young reggae stars in the early 70s there. Skylarking and them tune there. But interesting we were saying about the European race system in Canaan expelling 8,000 Africans.
Yeah, and say them are
threaten Jewish identity. but of course, you and I and others know as Africans that these races in Canaan, notice I do even say Palestine,
land of Canaan, the land of
in Canaan, because that's the name.
Yeah.
Because neither the Arab nor these so-called are the Hebrews.
Yeah.
Take it originally. Belong to that land. They are invaders.
We did do a true name Canaan land where we lay out the whole journey of the Canaan land. Yeah, we did do a true like that. Yeah.
The land belong to the Canaanites. It's Canaan. It don't belong to any Hebrews nor no Arabs.
No, sir.
The Palestinians, and both of them fighting over it. And of course the British and the French arranged after using the Arabs after the war with the Kaiser to bring in these Europeans claiming that they are Jews.
The Russians.
Yes, Russian Jews.
Germans and Russians.
Because these are racists. These are Europeans saying that they are Jews and with the racism. And what is interesting with Haile Selassie is when some of those Ethiopians calling themselves Beta Israel, meaning House of Israel. You know, not Falashas, which they do accept that term.
Exactly. Term.
Beta Israel. When they wanted to go to Canaan, Haile Selassie did not stop them. He said, go. This is your home. This is where you're from. As Africans, as Ethiopians. But if you want to go there, he didn't stop them. But what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of them, when they went to Canaan and faced the racism from these same Europeans in Canaan, some of them returned to Ethiopia.
Of course.
And right now, for years upon years, but it still continues, they use those Africans from Ethiopia who went there. They use the children as soldiers in the army to fight. And at the same time discriminate against them on racist grounds.
Then we don't go to Tel Aviv, go see it, man. We go see it, man. On the roads, on the streets of Tel Aviv, appear Ethiopian and walk up and down on the streets and suffer.
Yes, racism.
Yeah. I don't see one white Israeli.
About racism.
Yeah.
You know? And Lightcox, remember I was talking about that award thing, false award thing by omitting Jamaicans in Britain and so. Lightcox will be coming to Jamaica very soon.
Okay.
And I'll give him a number so that you can interview him.
Yeah, man, I mean, man.
Cutting edge.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yes, because that will be sometime in March.
Okay, definitely.
You know, because Lightcox arrange it, he will phone you so you can interview because we really upset.
No, man, we have to come in at the studio, man.
Yes, man.
We have to come in at the studio.
So, yes, that will definitely be arranged. And we call again as one of those Duke Vin, the first sound system man in Britain in 1955, whose mother used to live at 61 Wildman Street beside Jamaica Success Club. Original DJ for time, the great Sebastian Sound and thing. What about the situation where you see with this Arab Muslim jihadist thing, how them behead 21 Egyptian Catholics in Libya.
Yeah, terrible.
And it's the same type of thing Boko Haram.
But you see, if Gaddafi was there, if Gaddafi was there, that wouldn't happen.
Precisely.
The Americans, them not get out Gaddafi, feel Libya would be a better place. I know it's a failed state.
Totally failed state.
Just like Iraq. Them not get out Saddam and now it's ISIS take over.
Right? So they are the ones who allowing ISIS and others to be doing the kind of things that they are doing in terms of atrocities.
Yeah, man, terrible things, man.
You see, they was very short-sighted, man.
Yes,
very short-sighted, you know. Definitely, you know. But this is the situation, and it's just we as African people have to do what we have to do. You know, I give you a joke, Muta. It's not really a joke. I was watching a TV station in Nigeria, in Lagos, called TVC. And one of the presenters is a female. And they brought on 2 Nigerian men who are homosexuals, you know. This was yesterday. And them talking about them love each other and so. Here, one of the 3 panelists, presenters on the thing. Oh, it is good that we can have this kind of coming out on Nigerian TV because we have to catch up with the rest of the world in accepting this kind of homosexual lifestyle. Not because, not because we are in Africa. It means that we must be left behind. So, behind, you know.
Yeah, you know, most African.
The 2 guys who them are dealing with the behind.
You know, say, if you go in a certain part of Nigeria, them still don't even know nothing about homosexuality.
True.
You have a whole heap of place all in that God. You'd have believe say, everybody know about this thing and homosexuality, you know. If you go in a certain place in Africa, them never ever hear about that yet. Them wonder what Musa talk about. Them Musa what you say. Yeah, man, African. Where the Africans ask me personally, that's already. Me I tell you, Africans ask me, say, Musa, what you saying? I mean, I tell them, and I say, no go so. Them say, no go so.
Like they're saying, you're making this up, this is
yeah, it's like them, I say, when we get them, when we get them thing from, no go so. We really they behind. Them really they behind. They want the guy behind, then they behind and the Nigeria never catch up.
Yes, she was boasting not because we are in Africa. It showed that we in with things. So any nastiness that the Europeans promoting,
yeah, man, we have to catch up.
Must just follow through.
We have to catch up.
Get with it.
We can't be behind.
And of course, in Britain, the program that this present conservative regime doing, the so-called same-sex marriage, which marriage is between a man and a woman, no such thing. They're pushing to try to indoctrinate from primary school the children in accepting homosexuality and lesbianism.
Then I will teacher not get fired because them say them not accepting in the school, man.
Because them say them not accepting it.
Exactly. Teacher get fired in England. Yeah.
You know?
We have read about enough of them. We have read about enough of them, man. Anyway, we have to move, do you know? We have to move.
Yes, well, just keep on doing the good work. And as usual, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, man.
Glad to know that Lady Cox.
Yeah, man. Give Cox me number. Give Cox me number. Give Cox me number. All right. Yeah, this is the Culture Nation FM. Remember that. Little more from this. We'll be back here from 2 to 5:45 with the stepping razor, the art of war. And you know, so we have some little things where, you know, so me I sit down and reflect back on the real Eve, the documentary in a made about the information that is presented, and where I say, where you the man I talk about 9,000 years ago and 20,000 years ago. And when you read the Bible, it's only 6,000 years recorded there from Adam and Eve. 6,000 years. And people actually accept that as a real timeline for the human race on earth. Even though we know that man, I mean, we go to Jericho, the same Jericho where them reading the Bible. We go to Jericho, and when you enter the city of Jericho, them say, welcome to Jericho, the oldest city on earth, 10,000 year old. Welcome to Jericho, the oldest city on earth, 10,000 year old. If we were to follow where all the Bible chronicles the history of man on earth, you don't go reach 6,000. Now, how can a man in a real consciousness and intelligence really believe, say, the earth, our human beings per earth is almost 6,000 years old? How is that possible? How is that possible? How can people actually accept that? Unless you don't want to accept your Africanness. Because if you would accept your Africanness, you'd have realized that with there thousands of years before. And when you listen to the documentary a while ago, you realize, say, but wait, somebody has sell me a 6 for a 9. Believe you me, yes. Last call this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Muta?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but just to say, if you can leave that number for me, forgive Lady, because I misplaced your number, so I can have it differently. Mandingo.
Yeah, all right.
All right. And it's really interesting where you're showing to about we've been living as Africans for hundreds of thousands of years. So how can history only begin about 6,000-7,000 years ago? But some people so programmed in the programming.
Them can't deal with new information.
You show them, yes, because I know you play tapes and you talk all the while, but some people just refuse to accept the reality.
Yeah. All right, sir. Give thanks. All right, Bridget. Yeah.
Just leave it with the
Give thanks. This hours, no say you will come with you again from the next 2 o'clock. Matrix in the house, may I tell you, say, Matrix look like a... No, Matrix, if you ever go through certain airport, you know, them supposed to check you like you have a bomb strap on you. You cannot imagine how if Matrix starts to rap him head like how me rap my head. Me I tell you, I done him done. Hey.
4 months now, I want to go to the barber shop, and every time I figure my mind tell me something I'm coming around. 4 months now.
No, but I say Matrix look like a rab inside a Pamela Rasta. Man come to me beside me and I start get afraid. Me start get afraid when the man comes to me beside me and say, wait, I wonder what me say. Make them send some Arab in there Pamela. No. The man have beard up and, hey, you want him to look to yet? I'm going to make him lose his job, you know. No, the man screamed me a while ago, come to the side, you know. Come in there and talk about all Taliban and listen to the program. I brother right me and tell me about the Taliban love the program, you know. From in the Middle East, you know. Imagine me and talk about that and you come to the side and look so right there. If I send them, you know, them say, oh no. I'm a brethren near Matrix. It's not no Taliban comes to them beside me.